Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, the strategies, and the insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today I'm very lucky to be joined by Joanne Newborn of Newborn Evolution. How's it going, Joanne?
Everything is great. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Yes, and thank you so much for being on, Joanne. And to start this off, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your background and a little bit more about Newborn Evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I spent over 20 years in the corporate landscape, and somewhere along the way, I became a certified executive coach. It happened accidentally, but you know how life is, it presents you with paths. I started a passion project on the side while I was still working in the corporate landscape, which I really loved. And my love for being an executive coach and working with organizations really started to grow and grow. And I think I have my MBA from Penn State. I think that combined with having my coaching certification, I always felt very idealistically that there should be perfectly run companies out there because we have all of the information, right? But we have new people coming into the work all the time. And I just noticed that there was a gap that needed to be filled. And so, Newborn Evolution, what we do is we work and we build leaders from the ground up. And we also work with those leaders to build high performing, high impact teams.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I think what you do is probably a lot of people are probably envious of that. I think a lot of people would love to be coaching some of the biggest professionals out there. How does one go about, you have this corporate background, how does one go about building a book of business of people that are like, hey, yes, I admit that I have a problem and that I can be working on and I need your help? Because I feel like that's a hard thing to get people to admit.
It's hard to get people to admit. I would say, just in general, for anyone that owns a company, you're probably going to be doing 70 to 80% marketing and whatever way that means, right? There's lots of different ways to market. And I came from sales and marketing. So I think you have to make friends with that right from the beginning. I think a lot of coaches don't realize that time and effort and energy that's going to be taken into account. Once I start talking with people, there's a lot of understanding that there's a lot of challenges out there right now. There, there were before the new year and a lot more now. So just really getting into conversations about people around what are their challenges and if they could wave a magic wand, what would they really want? And a lot of the times, if for people that lead teams, it's to have teams that are more accountable and that can think on their feet and really take ownership of their outcomes. And so you start to get into conversation with people and you find that, and we've worked with over 100 companies like in 50 countries around the world. It doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter where in the world it is. All of the organizations pretty much encounter the same challenges, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you know that you've encountered it before, you know a solution to that, which is odd. And I'm sure it's great for your clients as well to know that they're not alone in having the problems that they have. And I know that you've trained, you said over 100 organizations in 50 plus countries, and I know that equals out to over 28,000 employees, which is amazing. So what are some patterns that you see, what you're mentioning here, in the challenges that leaders face globally, and how do you help them navigate those challenges?
Yeah, a great question. We see quite a few different areas coming up quite often. There's a real fear in taking risks today. People want to fly under the radar, they're afraid to speak up, but also organizations are asking them to be innovative. And so when we start to peel back the onion, we find out that they haven't really given the skill sets on how to be innovative or how to take calculated risks, right? Without taking big risks that are going to have huge failures, like trying new things or being given space to be heard or to have their ideas heard, whether someone will say yes to them or not, just creating a culture where people can be heard. That's one of the things that come up quite often. Another big one is having five generations in the workforce today. So very different ways of thinking, very different ways of working. You have your boomers or your Gen X. And when I was raised, we did things like this. And then you've got your Gen Z coming into the workforce that care about work-life balance and they want to work from home. However, there's so many strengths in those five generations, and that's what people are overlooking, right? They come and they're complaining about all the differences, but not really tapping into the strengths, which is like a gold mine of strengths. So I would say those are probably two big ones that we deal with quite often.
That must be such a big mindset shift for organizations to look at these things, especially I know that you hear that these complaints a lot about Gen Z specifically because it's so different. Like that generation is so different from Gen X or the boomer generation. But that mindset shift from looking at these things as like an annoyance to an opportunity that like, hey, it's not so much. This might be even better for your bottom line because it's not so much about the paycheck. It's more about the work-life balance. You know what I mean? Those are really interesting things that I think when, and I'm sure you probably have more insight on this, is when organizations are so deep into their organization that they get that tunnel vision. They don't have that outside view. And I think that's probably an amazing service that you provide, just being that outside view, right?
Yeah, and actually, I am super, and everyone on my team, we're like super into trends and data and facts, and really knowing that and being grounded in that becomes really powerful for teams as well. Like I'm always working with them on you make sure you know your data and your facts before you go in, let's just say to make a sale. It's not all about you, it's all about the other person, your customer, what are the things that they're dealing with, and what's going on in the landscape, even from a macro environmental perspective. Like, really know this.
Yeah. And speaking a little bit more on that, I know that you've developed over 25 customized programs. What's your process for identifying a team's blind spots and designing training that not only resonates, but actually shifts behavior?
I'm so glad you asked me that because I am just a stickler on finding root causes. So we work with all of our clients exactly the same way. We're very boutique and we're very customized. So we sit down with them and we just have a conversation. Like I said before, we kind of have a discovery call. And then after that, we'll explore a little bit more to really find out what the root causes are. Because sometimes people come to us and they say, we have a problem with feedback and we need to give our teams some feedback skills. But I said, I want to ask you some more questions first because that could just be a symptom of a bigger problem that's going on your team. And a lot of times it is. Maybe they weren't given we find people have been getting promoted very rapidly and they actually were never taught how to manage before. Maybe
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
new out of college. Feedback is just one little piece of a broader issue. So we always want to sit down and find out the root causes, and then we co-create to 100% with our clients so they know that they're getting exactly what they need. We also make sure we mitigate risk so that everybody who's part of a program is fully invested and not multitasking and doing other things, and knowing that the organization is making an investment in their future and in their career, not only their future with the organization, but like their career across time. And then we measure everything that we do so that we have some real qualitative and quantitative results from programs so that we can share that with our clients as well. And then they know the programs are working and that people are getting value from them.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I actually was a sales trainer in a previous life, and the metaphor I would always use when training sales is, hey, you're a doctor prescribing a solution. So whatever somebody says, it's the symptom, and you have to get to the root cause. And I love the parallels there between that. Because everybody comes in thinking they've got this specific problem, but a lot of times it ends up being way bigger than that.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're talking to certain decision makers, they might be like several layers removed from the actual team that you're going to be working with, and they might not have gotten all this information themselves. So that's why I like to just really dig in and make sure, because also investments today are people are being very cautious with investments. So if you're going to make an investment, you want to make sure that you're making the right investment in the right challenge or the right opportunity.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so you talk about investment and you also talk about qualitative and quantitative data. And Most companies say that they want high performance teams, but few invest deeply in the development needed to build them. So, what's the ROI of building a culture of leadership at every level?
When you work in the way that we work,
Mm.
we always have the ROI. I
Yeah,
don't
right.
sound cocky, but
Yeah,
being able to measure everything is it we're able to show the ROI and the growth. But a lot of that also is around mindset. So I'm first very adamant about connecting to the vision of an organization and making sure that the team and the department are also connected to the vision. And then we can work with real strategies, so real
yeah.
behavioral strategies or business strategies or hardcore strategies, whatever that is, but you have to combine it then with the mindset because I can give people all the skills and the tools in the world, but if they don't buy into it and they don't believe in it and they don't think it's going to help them, then it's just going to sit on their computer in a folder somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And we've talked about data quite a bit here, and I want to dive in just a little bit deeper. What are some of the most meaningful metrics you use to show clients how leadership behaviors are evolving?
Again, it goes back to the co-creation with the clients, right? What's most important to them?
Uh,
I really always want to know what is the outcome that you're seeking, right? What are the goals? What does success look like to you at the end of the program? And that's how we will put together the measurement. It's very specifically based on what they're looking for. And then we can look at percentages of where they started, where the group started, and where they ended. And then we also get their feedback just really in terms of some of the things that they're saying as well, because I want to know more than just some numbers. I really want to
uh,
know how they're going to use this when the program ends on their day to day. And we usually tack some other things on as part of the program so that we don't just do a one and done program. We actually come back and we continue to work with them so that we know they're actually out there using it and then they can come back with questions or we can do some additional coaching and things like that. So it's not just, okay, we're done. We want to know that they're able to use it.
yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure you get all of these, or in even the people that you work with, get all of these like ancillary results that they would have never thought that they're getting. Like, oh, I had Joanne's team come and train me to do this. And as a byproduct, this positive effect happened that I didn't even think about. I'm sure that happens often, right?
Yeah, and it's great, especially when you're coaching people, because they're going to come up with their own action items to take away. And then the next time you work with them, they come back, they're like, okay, I tried this. I can't believe it. Some of them are really shocked. One of the things that happened a couple of years ago, someone had all their budget taken away, not 100% of it, but a good chunk. And they were expected to meet some very steep goals. And so we actually put a very specific plan together on how she was going to speak to her manager about adding more people to the team, even though all the budget was given to a different team. And she had the meeting with her manager and she came back and I said, "What did your manager say?" And she said, "He's going to ask for three people for the team." I thought maybe one,
Yeah.
but again, it goes back to the data and the value that it was going to be adding and putting some numbers to and I couldn't believe it. Yeah, that they were going to ask for three people to be
Awesome.
added to the team, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? It's always a no if you don't ask.
Yeah, yeah. And that goes back to people not wanting to take risks
Yes, exactly.
and the mindset. If you think
Yes.
it's going to be no, it's going to be a
Yes,
no.
exactly. So, looking ahead, what do you think will define the next generation of great leaders, and how can organizations start preparing their people now to meet that future?
Not being afraid to ask your team to think like leaders. I really believe that everyone is a leader, regardless of what level you are in an organization. And if you have individual contributors thinking with a leadership mindset from the very beginning. I can't say day one because they need time to get there, but really see themselves that way. I usually do this team exercise where people have to create their leadership style and really think outside of the box of the qualities and behaviors that define them as a leader. And I remember this one person started crying and the team was rallying around her and they said, "What's wrong?" And she said, no one's ever called me a leader before. I've never thought of myself in that way. And this feels so good. And it feels so good to be supported. And when you have a team of people that can think like that and they're willing to take risks or come up with ideas or speak up in meetings, then you're building your team long term because
Yeah.
they're always going to find a solution. And that's one other thing. Like one of my secrets is ask your team to come instead of coming and complaining about something. You can come and complain, but you have to have three potential solutions that we can discuss as well. And when you have that kind of mindset on a whole team, it's really creating a team culture is what you're doing. it's you can't not have a high performance team.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I mean, that's so powerful for people, right? Because I think people have this idea of what a leader is, and they think it's maybe some extroverted, outspoken person, but that's not always the case. You know what I mean? And introverted people can be leaders, like no matter who you are. Wow, Joanne, this has been so great. Where can people learn more about you, and where can people learn more about your company?
Yeah, thank you for that. My website is newborn, like a newborn baby, newbornleadershipevolution.com. You can also find me, Joanne Newborn, on LinkedIn because we run quarterly executive forums where we bring together senior level leaders just to have discussions around all of these kinds of topics. If you want to be invited to one of them, just connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Joanne Newborn, and we'll get you on the list to be invited.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you again so much for being on, Joanne. This was really informative.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.